Hey, mamas. Happy Friday Eve. I hope that everyone is doing really well. I'm so excited to be back live with you guys tonight, talking about a really interesting topic. Now, one interesting thing is that I don't actually need these headphones in because no one's talking to me. I was listening to the music for the countdown, so I had my headphones in. So I'm going to take those off to be a little bit more comfortable. But I'm excited about this topic tonight, which is why mamas. Why did we design the Smart Money Mamas annual summit, Mamas Talk Money, to be for moms? Why is our whole platform for moms, right? Sometimes we get these questions. Why aren't you for all women? Why isn't it for all people? Everyone needs to think about money. And that's true. We totally 100% all need to talk about money. But for me, my personal story, my personal journey led me to wanting to work with moms. So first of all, drop a comment and tell me where you're coming in from. And whether or not you're a mom, whether you have kids, let me know. I'm really curious the makeup. And I'm also going to share with you that we're going to have a couple of giveaways going on tonight. So gift giving is kind of my love language. I love to give people gifts. It's why it's a huge part of the Mamas Talk Money Summit. Hey, Sue from New Jersey. So my in-laws are from New Jersey. My husband and I spent some time living in New Jersey. We love it there. Hey, Heather from Tucson. So I love giving gifts. It's part of why the Mamas Talk Money Summit has over $10,000 of giveaways throughout the event. So many giveaways. And so tonight we're going to be doing two giveaways. One is going to be for one of our super soft Mamas Talk Money sweatshirts, which is actually green. It has the Mamas Talk Money logo on it. And a physical version of our workbook. So the Mamas Talk Money Summit, if you don't have your ticket yet, hey, Jasmine, starts October 12th. It's October 12th through 16th. And we have over 40 women coming in to teach all areas of personal finance. It's amazing. Hey, Kelly. Hey, Sabrina. Hey, Tatum. So teaching all areas of personal finance. And for every single session, here, I'll show you guys. For every single session, we have this workbook, which has, a place to take notes and some action step questions, right? Some places to really, take some takeaways. And you get a PDF of this for free when you get your free ticket to the Mamas Talk Money Summit. But we're giving away, and look at the back of this. So cute. I'm so proud of myself for my little design skills. Anyway, we have a physical version that we printed out as opposed to the PDF you get with the free ticket. And to win that, what you need to do is hit the share button. Make sure it's a public share so that our team can see it. Hit the share button and let your friends know that you're watching tonight, that you're watching the Why Mamas session. And we'll pick someone at the end to win a sweatshirt and a workbook. Now, we're also doing an all access pass giveaway. So we did this when we announced all the speakers about a week and a half ago, and it was a lot of fun. And so what we did was tag a friend in the chat, tag a friend. I know if you're on YouTube, guys, you can't really do this. It's more of a Facebook thing, but tag your friend. And we're going to pick somebody for them and their friend to win an all access pass. So with the free ticket to the summit, you get to watch all the sessions for 48 hours. You get all the worksheets. You can do live Q&A with the speakers in chat. But with the lifetime all access pass, you can go back and watch those sessions anytime. You get access to our free private podcast that you can just listen to the sessions on the go. We have summary notes that are super cute. They're like bullet journal style. I don't think I have any on my very messy desk here. But anyway, so we're doing two giveaways. One, hit that share button for the sweatshirt and the workbook, and tag a friend for the all access pass. Now, I have a ton of notes tonight because this is actually one of my favorite topics is why is it so important and why is it so powerful for moms to talk about money? And I wanted just to be a little bit of a choose your own adventure night tonight because I really could probably talk for a very, very long time about this topic from a lot of different angles. And so the choose your own adventure side of it is, and I'm going to ask you guys to post in the comments what you want to hear about. Part of this is my story. Okay. Why moms and money are so close to my own journey, how I ended up doing this work, why this work is so important to me. And I know that some of you have been in this community for a while. Maybe you came to the Mamas Talk Money Summit last year. Maybe you listened to the Smart Money Mamas podcast and you're like, Chelsea, please now, I've heard your story. Let's move on. Or maybe you're new. Maybe you've been referred to from one of our friends or one of our speakers and you want to hear a little bit about that. So we could talk about that story. And then we have two sides of the coin. I'm trying to properly spread out my hands here without whacking my microphone. We have two sides of the coin on the positive, amazing, great reasons that women need to talk more about money. And then the little bit more negative, I kind of want to burn the world down side of why moms need to talk about money. And those are more about the gaps and the struggles and the things that go into that negatively impact moms and their money and why it's even more important for us to overcome those. So we can decide where we want to start. I'm going to watch for a couple of questions and see if you guys want to first hear my story and how Smart Money Mamas and the Mamas Talk Money Summit came to be. Or if we want to talk about, what do you want first, the good news or the bad news when it comes to moms and money, right? Because there are a lot of huge positive impacts for moms talking about money. Okay. We get more stable families. We get more confidence in choosing our careers and showing our kids how to do passion-driven work that we love, right? We get better we teach our kids better money relationships that they grow up with. We're going to talk about some more details about this, right? But there's a lot of those positive impacts. But the reasons that it's hard to talk about money, and I'll start with the first fact while I wait for you guys to kind of choose which way you want to go at the beginning of this conversation. But statistics show that 8 in 10 women have avoided conversations about money because they say it's uncomfortable or too personal. And when we do that, when we remove ourselves from the conversation, we're giving up power. Money has power in our society, and we can wield it to align things with our values to drive social change. And so when I hear that statistic, when I see that the 8 in 10 women have avoided conversations where they could have stepped into their power, that is part of this, right? That is part of this. Lauren says, always the good news, which is so funny because Lauren is my chief glitter officer and she always wants that good news. But Heather says, I definitely want to hear your story. And so let me tell you guys my story. I'm going to try to keep it short a little bit because I could, probably go on and on. Funny story. Can I side note here for a second? Funny story about this water bottle. I told my team that I lost my favorite Hydro Flask water bottle that had a straw, and that I ordered a new one, and that my husband was going to be upset because, we have a lot of water bottles. I kind of have a water bottle thing. It's one of my spending weaknesses. And he came home from IKEA today with this. He's like, it has a straw. I know it's not as good as your old one. So now we have 2 more water bottles coming into the house, which is fine with me. I like water bottles. Anyway, my story. So we'll go all the way back to the beginning. When I was in college, I always had this dual interest. I wanted to be a teacher, like a public school teacher, or I wanted to go work on Wall Street. Okay. I had this love of money in the financial system and economics. I read my first book by an economist when I was 12 years old. I read Benjamin Graham's Intelligent Investor when I was 15. Okay. I was fascinated by how money worked. Okay. And part of that's parents and upbringing. We're not going to get into that deep level of stuff, but I was really interested in money. And so in college, I was fighting this thing. I love teaching and I love interacting with people and helping them reach new levels. Right. And so I had this pull towards teaching, but I also had this pull towards my intellectual, real challenge side of, can I go make good money and test how far I can push this? Can I learn more about this thing that I've had a passion about? And I struggled because I wanted to do work that had purpose. And I knew in my heart that this Wall Street work wasn't making the world a better place in the way that I wanted to. And so I ended up choosing money. I decided in my 20-year-old brain that, hey, I'm going to go work on Wall Street. I'm going to do it for a while, probably till I had 45. 45 was the number in my head, until I'm 45. And then I'll quit and I'll have a second act career, right? I'll have saved all this money and I'll be able to have this second act career. And that was the plan. Okay. So I ended up doing that. I went to Goldman Sachs. I moved to New York. I graduated college a year early. I moved to New York. I started working at Goldman Sachs. I met my husband a year later. We were actually roommates first, which is kind of a funny story, but so I moved in with him before I even started dating him. And at that point I was saving 50% plus of my income. I had a good life. I liked my job. I had good friends there, but it was a ton of work. I was working all the time, and that purpose was always lacking, right? I felt this pull to, I have to be doing more important work. And I told my husband, or to-be husband, that I was going to this 45 plan, right? At 45, I was going to leave and do something else. And he was totally on board with this. He totally got it. Q2, a couple years later, I got this, I wasn't loving my job in New York anymore. I don't love New York City. And so I took a job in Boston as a hedge fund manager. And I did that work for a while. And so when I left, we got pregnant with our first child, I had just been promoted to vice president. I just took over what we call my own book. So that means I'm managing a lot of money for other people. Okay. And so I get my own book. I have my first child, and all of a sudden, everything changes, right? And I think any mom who's watching this knows this feeling, right? Like your whole identity, your whole purpose, the example that you're so much more real, right? It's not just about you anymore. And it's not just about, well, I'll fix it in the future. It's what am I doing now? What am I showing my kid? What am I going to do for their first years of life? And now all of a sudden 45 felt a million years away. And it was like, they're going to be in high school. They're going to be in college. Guys, your video keeps messing up. Are we better now? I'll watch for the comments and make sure this gets better. Otherwise we'll figure something out. Okay. So everything changes and I get major postpartum depression. So I went undiagnosed. I didn't get it until I was like 6 months, till he was like 6 months old. I didn't actually get it treated until after our second was born. Okay. So I felt this, it was really, really hard. And so I knew that I was not setting the example that I wanted to set, and that working this job for another 15 years, I was going to miss my kids' entire childhood. And I wasn't comfortable with that. And I wasn't comfortable going to a job that didn't feed my soul. And so during this period of time, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I'm looking at a million different business opportunities. And I'm hustling, right? I'm trying to figure it out. I actually almost left and became a startup CEO for a healthcare startup, which had nothing to do with anything I was passionate about, except it was run by a friend of mine or founded by a friend of mine that I wanted to work with him. I thought maybe that would be better, right? You're in that period of time where you're just searching for the right fit. Okay. So tell me if this story is going on too long. So during this period of time, I'm in a mom's group of all women whose first kids were born in the same month as my first kid, as Henry, my oldest son. And we'd been together since like early pregnancy, right? It's like 200 women from across the country. We were all pretty tight knit. And I've become the go-to person for money questions in our community, right? They're sending me questions about taxes and accounting and investing and 529 plans. And I'm answering these questions. And I love answering these questions for them, right? Because to me, this is fascinating, amazing stuff. Okay. It's just so empowering to be able to make these big choices about your money. And so I love answering their questions. And so when this healthcare CEO thing falls out, I decide that I'm going to start a blog. It's just going to be a hobby. And I'm going to answer the questions from my mom's group. And I'm going to see if anyone else has these questions, if they want to talk about it. And so I start the blog, and we get pregnant a couple months later with our second. It's totally my passion, Sue. I totally love it. I could talk about it endlessly. It's 100% my passion. But a couple months after I start the blog, we get pregnant with my second. My pregnancy with him is super hard. I had herniated discs in my back. It was a whole disaster. And at 32 weeks, my water breaks. And I'm going to fast forward that he's fine. He ended up going to term. My water resealed, which is some super rare thing that happens. And it was totally fine. But I was sitting in the hospital in December, right before the holidays. My 2-year-old, is staying at home. I'm getting prepared to have a preemie. They're walking us through the NICU. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't answer work emails right now. I can't do work that doesn't feel like it's serving my mental health and my physical health and my family's health. And so I quit. And that was scary. We went from super great hedge fund income to zero. I didn't mention this yet, but my husband is a stay-at-home dad, right? So we went from great income, I was a breadwinner, to zero because my blog had never made any money. Smart Money Mamas, at the time it was called Mama Fish Saves. It had never made a penny. And over the next year, as we kind of built the site, one of the things that came up for me is that we had a ton of privilege from the color of our skin, from the fact that I got a really good job right out of college and that I was able to save a lot of money. And so for us, quitting and starting a business, quitting and trying to figure out how I wanted to deal with my family, we had that option. But I knew that most families don't have that option. And so many women, so many moms make decisions about work and where they're going to live and where they're going to send us kids to school. And maybe even when they're having kids based around money, right? Money is this root. And yet money is this thing that we're afraid of. We don't want to talk about. No one taught us about. And that's scary as hell, right? It's like, I don't know what to do. It's you just had a kid and you're trying to decide whether to go back to work because childcare is so freaking expensive. And what do I do? And so to me, who has always been interested in money, what I saw and what I continue to see is that if we can figure out the money, if we can learn how to manage it, if we can learn how to feel confident in it, if we can learn how to feel confident in ourselves and our worthiness to build wealth, right? We break away from that idea that money is evil, that money is a man's game. If we break away from that and we get our money under control, we can make better decisions about who we want to be. We can cut expenses and cut costs and all kinds of things that don't matter to us so that we can prioritize the life we actually want outside of what society and everything else is telling us we're supposed to do. Right. But we have to fix the money first. And that comes back to anyone who's listened to the Smart Money Mama show, listen to the podcast, has heard me talk about this a little bit endlessly, but I have to tell everybody here, it comes back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Right. And we talk about safety, personal safety is actually the second tier, but like physiological needs, physical needs are first. So physical needs are safe place to sleep, a roof over your head, clothes, and food. We need money to afford these things, right? So if you're living paycheck to paycheck, if you're feeling totally insecure with money, you're in a lot of debt, you feel true cave woman brain fear. Even if you're really like mostly okay, you feel real cave woman brain fear. If your job is insecure, maybe you have enough money to pay for your housing and your food, but your health is insecure, right? Your health insurance is insecure, or you are still living paycheck to paycheck, or your job is insecure. Same thing. We can't talk about personal self-development. We can't talk about chasing passions until we solidify the bottom of that pyramid. And part of solidifying the bottom of that pyramid is figuring out our money, right? And so that's where Smart Money Mamas came from, is like, let's change this. Let's talk about all the emotional money decisions that we have to make as moms. Let's talk about how our desires and our goals and what we want from life often change when we have kids, and that we have to be willing to talk about it. And then once we figure that out, let's figure out how to help women build amazing wealth that aligns with their values and gets them the things they want. And so that's where it came from. And so for the first couple of years, we ran this blog. It was a ton of fun. I loved building the community. I loved hearing from women and hearing them pay off debt and reach goals and change their situations, right? Fantastic. But I kept hearing over and over again, I don't see financial educators that look like me. And I don't have anybody in my real life to talk to about money. People who are at my stage of the journey. Like, I don't feel comfortable. It comes back to that stat I said right at the beginning, which is 8 in 10 women have avoided money conversations because it's too awkward or uncomfortable. And so I had this idea. And Lauren's in the chat here. Lauren is my number 2 at Smart Money Mamas and Mamas Talk Money, and she will back me up on this. I have a tendency to get an idea and then jump. And not really plan it out, which is counter to my analytical brain. But sometimes I think it's like how I force myself into doing things. So I had this idea of, what if we ran a conference for women? And at first we kind of thought about doing it in person. And then I was like, you know what? Getting moms to take several days off and travel and invest in themselves enough to pay for that time off and that travel and the childcare while they're gone, like, that seems really, really hard. So what if we did an online summit and we could make it free? And we could bring in tons and tons and tons of amazing female speakers who were also moms, who had also been through all of these decision-making processes, who would come from all different kinds of income backgrounds and cultural backgrounds. And we talked about money. We spent a week talking about money together, right? What would that look like? And so I had this idea. I pitched it to a couple different people. And then I'm like, you know what? We're going to pitch speakers. And this was last year. This was last spring. And all of a sudden, I emailed a bunch of potential speakers that I really wanted, big names. And I thought, okay, if a couple of them say yes, I think I told Lauren, like, if a couple of them say yes, we'll do it. We'll figure it out. I hadn't bought the Mamas Talk Money website yet. I didn't have any idea technologically how to run a summit. I just knew I wanted this to exist in the world. I wanted there to be a place for women to come, for moms to come and talk about money in the way motherhood affects money, right? And like, this comes back to, guys, like, we're going to talk about the positives and the negatives. We're going to talk about some of the statistics and why I'm so incredibly passionate about this. But 2020 has been a perfect example of why this is so important, okay? Of why moms talking about money is important, because the weight of the pandemic has been heavily put on working moms' shoulders. It's highlighted how little value we give to working moms and how easily we expect moms to give up their seat at the table, to step back, to take over childcare and household care and all these kind of things, right? Women have been 2 times more likely than men to reduce their hours or quit their jobs because of COVID. And it is horrifying to think about what this is going to do to women's careers long term because we haven't valued that, right? And so We're going to talk about a lot of that. So anyway, so I pitched a bunch of speakers, and guys, every single one of them said yes. And we're talking about big names, right? Like Tiffany Alicia, the Budgetnista. We pitched these people and they all said yes. And I called Lauren. I was like, so I guess we have to figure out how to run a summit. And so last year we had our first summit, 18,000 moms showed up. And as soon as it was over, it was the most amazing experience. And guys, if you were there last year, comment and tell everybody what it was like, what it was about, maybe what your favorite part was from last year. Because if you weren't there, I know it's hard to kind of imagine, but we got to see moms connecting with each other and sharing stories and encouragement. We had a point of, we talked about financial abuse, at a session in the summit. And we're going to do that actually again this year because October, so it's October 1st, is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And it's really important to talk about abuse when we talk about any big group of women, right? Because it's far more common than we like to admit, that we like to talk about, right? 1 in 4 women face domestic violence. And so we talked about it, and we actually saw women saying that they were currently in those situations, and then other women coming forward and saying that they were survivors and they were willing to be a listening ear. And this positive, non-judgmental community was one of the most beautiful things I've gotten to do as a human being so far in my life. And I knew as soon as it was done, we were doing it again. And so that's what's happening in less than 2 weeks, right? So Sarah says, I felt like I made other women friends just through chatting and never seeing their faces. That was really fun. And so guys, part of the summit, if you didn't attend last year, was that when the summit session goes live, so like when Jamila Soufran, so Jamila is going to be giving a talk about financial independence this year. When her session goes live, she will be in chat with all the attendees for the hour that her session is live, answering questions, interacting about her experience and things like that, right? Because the session is actually pre-recorded. And so she's there to pay attention and answer questions. But we saw all these women who were going to almost every single session, really developing these little pods and friendships, even though they'd never seen each other's faces, which was really cool. Wanda says, it was a game changer for me. Loved the summit last year. Stephanie said, it was great, overwhelming at times, but I learned so much. It is a little bit like drinking through a fire hose. And so I will mention that. It's over 30 sessions in 5 days. And that's a lot of talking about money, especially if you're not used to talking about money. So my advice for you, before we get into some of the statistics that I really do want to talk about, because I think that a lot of people don't know them, but what we recommend is take our quiz. So you can go to mamastalkmoney.com/quiz. It's 3 questions. It'll take you 30 seconds, and it'll give you the 4 or 5 sessions we think are most appropriate for where you are in your financial and family life. And so you can prioritize those. And then any other sessions you want to watch, we do pajama parties at night where we do all the giveaways and we have a lot of fun. We answer Q&A. I'll stay on as long as people need me to stay on for Q&A. During those sessions, just look at it as entertainment, right? Focus on your couple. And then if you have the ability, I would upgrade to one of our all access passes. This year, actually, we added a 30-day pass, which is only $29. So if you don't have a ton of disposable income or you're not sure, you just want a little bit more time to kind of absorb things because it is a lot of information, you can do the 30-day pass, or we have a lifetime pass that's currently $69 until the summit starts. When the summit starts, the price will go up. But for right now, it's $69 and you get a whole bunch of other benefits that I talked about at the beginning. So I won't do that again. Okay, so let's see a couple of these other questions here. Denise said, last year was so great, so much that I jumped on the All Access Pass the second it went live. Woohoo, worth the investment. Simone says, got me started on taking my financial life seriously. So motivating. Carol said, oh my God, so much helpful information and such a supportive community. I can't say enough good about it. Can I take a sip of water here, guys? I know I'm asking permission to take water. I need water, so I'm going to drink water. A reminder to hit the share button to enter to win the sweatshirt and our lovely, lovely workbook, which is so cute. And to tag a friend for the All Access Pass, for you and a friend to win an All Access Pass. Okay, so we heard that we want to hear from both the positive and the negative stats. And so let's start with some of the negative stats because I want to end on a good note. I know Lauren's good news first, bad news later, but I don't want to end this session on the negative. So let's talk about the negative now. We've all heard about the gender pay gap. Okay. We know that women make 77 cents per dollar that a man makes. Okay. And we know that that statistic gets way, way more severe if you are a woman of color, right? Specifically Black or Latino woman, you're going to have an even less number. What isn't as widely known, and we don't talk about enough, is that the vast majority of the gender pay gap is borne by mothers. So single women who do not have kids, their pay gap is actually pretty tight with men, not equal, not anywhere near equal, but it's tighter. Mothers are where you really start to see that gap. And so if you track the chart together, right? It stays pretty close from a young age, and then you hit childbearing age, and then the wage gap goes like this. And so studies have shown that hourly wages of mothers are 5% less per child than women without kids. And so hourly is important, right? Because we're not factoring in that a lot of women go part-time or step out of the workforce when they have kids. We are talking about working mothers per hour. They make 5% less than women who don't have kids. And so when we think about this, right, and we think about long-term financial stability, 40% of US households are the woman is the breadwinner. And that includes single parents, obviously, like single mothers. That includes that statistic. So if you're looking at just heterosexual married couples, 29% are breadwinner families, but huge portion of the population, women are the breadwinners. And yet we're paid less. So our ability to afford things for our families, our ability to have the wiggle room to save is less, right? Because we do not have that extra income necessarily. Now we can, but we have to kind of we have to be willing to push for raises, to switch companies, to do a lot of things that not everybody has the mobility to do, right? But that wage gap, that's significantly borne by mothers. Add on to the fact that mothers equals time out of the workforce, right? You're talking about maternity leave and caregiving years that are time out. That's less time that you're getting paid. It's less retirement money going away. And that impacts long-term health, right? So women are 3 times more likely to live in poverty in retirement than men, 3 times. And part of that is outliving our spouses because we live longer. But part of that is that impact of that long-term pay gap. And when women become stay-at-home parents, I'm going to lower my desk a little bit. Hold on one second. When women step out of the workforce and we don't have that savings cushion, if we get divorced and things like that, we are in a more negative position, right? So all of these things are headwinds for moms when we talk about money. And if we don't talk about it, it makes it really hard to make good decisions about what our career is going to look like, what our investments should look like, right? And so that's another statistic that I want to talk about. I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you here, guys, and I'm totally aware that I'm throwing a ton of numbers at you. So comment with questions. I'm watching the comments. I'm happy to answer any of this stuff, right? So 70% of assets owned by women is held in cash. Okay, this is significantly higher than assets held by men in cash. And a lot of that is that inner security brain, right? The need to stay safe and wanting to make sure that our families are safe and not being willing to take risks. But what happens is when we hold that much money in cash, we're actually losing value, right? Because every year, inflation makes things slightly more expensive. And so your dollar is worth a little less year on year. Versus if you invested and let that money work for you, you could build wealth over time. So moms, time out of the workforce, lower overall pay, we live longer, and we're investing less. This is not a matchup that works very well, right? We have to talk about this. And so this is why it's so important we have to talk to moms, because you add all these aspects of things that happen to mothers, and then you think about how to actually do long-term financial planning. We have to talk about what things impact moms. We have to talk about that specifically. And we can't generalize by gender. Like, we can't just talk to all women. We have to talk about motherhood. And we have to talk about the fact that moms might want to take different choices with work. They might want to take a couple of years off. They might want to go part-time for a while. And that's great as long as we have explained and understand the financial risks that we're taking and we're planning for them. We're offsetting them, right? We're doing the work. Fitbit is trying to tell me that it's time for bed, which is adorable. My phone just buzzed if you heard that sound. Anyway, so this is some of the negatives, right? And so I'm going to give you one more kind of negative, and then we'll move to some positives. And then I'll take as many questions as you guys want to give me on this Thursday evening. So women are 2 times more likely to associate negative emotions with money. 2 times. And when you think about how core mindset is to financial success, this is devastating, right? Women are far more likely to live in that scarcity brain. And part of that, we could talk about a lot of different reasons for that, right? But one of the biggest ones is that we are the ones that are protecting our families. Or one of the positive stats that we're actually talking about in a second, I'll talk about why the positive side of this is. But 2/3 of women handle the majority of money management at home. Now, some people hear that stat and they're like, woo, women are running all the money. And it's Fantastic. They do. But that's actually just when you read that stat, right? Management at home. And what they mean is the budget and the spending. And that goes way back to when women just managed the household. That was their full-time job, was to manage the household. And so what mom's responsibility was that budget to make sure that they had enough money for groceries and for the things that they needed and kids' school clothes and whatever. But when you just talk about budgeting, did we cut out there? When your only thing is budgeting, then you get stuck in scarcity brain. You totally get stuck in scarcity brain, and you're not thinking about wealth building. You're not thinking about long term. You're not thinking about the big picture. You're thinking about how you buy next week's groceries. And so that negative mindset, it ties into what we think we're capable of. Add that into, I feel like this is a big concept, right? And I'm trying to boil it down for you guys, but this is so layered, and I'm trying to give you the layers. I love how Lauren knows that when I said, did I cut out? I was talking to myself, but she answered me right away. Okay, so layers. Here's the last layer I want to talk about. Society teaches women to bury the things that they want, that their needs go last, right? It's like everybody else in the entire world until you. And so your sense of worthiness, your sense of being able to spend on yourself and enjoy things for yourself and envision this big, beautiful life for yourself, it's hard. It's really hard. And then you become a mom. And the quintessential amazing picture of a mom, right, is somebody who gives everything to their kids, all their time, all their energy. And this is changing, thank God. But like that had become the norm. And so when you were already focused on putting yourself last, then you have kids and everyone is telling you to put your kids first, you don't know how to prioritize yourself and your growth. And that comes into our money. It comes into how we manage our money and grow our money, right? And so that is why this community is important to come talk about the headwinds that we have, the emotional headwinds and the financial numbers bias headwinds. Let us clear the air. Like, let us admit that they're there. Let us get pissed off and want to burn the world down for a second. And then let's figure out how to move forward, how to take power. Okay. And so let's make this switch and talk about taking that power and why I just am so excited every time I get a group of women together to talk about money, like so ridiculously excited. If you guys can't tell this. Okay. Sarah says, so true. I keep telling my kids I'm not their personal assistant or maid. Yeah, keep telling them that. Yeah, they don't always hear it, but like definitely keep telling them that. So let's switch to, oh, wait, hold on. Tatum says, society wants us to martyr ourselves. Martyrdom is seen as a standard for good mom. Yuck, no thanks. Yes, there was that line in Glennon's book. So guys, Glennon Doyle, who wrote Untamed, is speaking at the summit this year. And she's speaking about getting real and living your truth. And we're going to talk about exactly this kind of stuff. How to find your sense of what you want and worthiness. And I'm so excited. Getting to talk to her was like a dream come true. Anyway, moving into our power and stepping into Lauren, we're going to end on the positive, right? Women have immense control of money, even though we don't think about it. Even though society still talks about money as being a man's thing, husbands being the ones, the providers and the ones who have to, make sure that their families are family taken care of. That's not really the case anymore, right? We are powerful in our own right. We always have been, but like now more than ever. So we talked about the statistic earlier, 40% of US households run by a female breadwinner, right? 2/3 of the women manage the budget at home. Think about the power of the budget. Think about the power of the budget, right? Okay. I get so excited because our money is votes. Every time we spend money, we are making a statement about the life and community that we want to live. What is important to us? What corporations and what practices are we willing to back, right? Or do we want to support companies that are local and that hire locally and that are diverse? Or do we want to support corporations who are paying the most minimum wage possible with no benefits and no childcare, right? We get to make those choices. We get to make choices as a family about what is most important to us, what brings us most joy. And women are controlling that budget. They are the ones managing it. And actually, when you talk about the actual statistics, and this blows my mind a little bit, totally blows my mind. 95%, there's a wasp on my light and I'm trying not to freak out, but we're gonna continue on. 95% of consumer decisions are made by women. Yes, there's big financial decisions like homes and things like that that are more jointly made, but 95% of consumer decisions are made by women. What could we do if we all got together and said, we are no longer supporting businesses who do not support women, who do not support families, who do not support the values that we want our society to have, and we are going to put our money at companies who are doing the things that we want them to do. Think about how fast change comes when that happens. And you have that power. You have that power in your household and with other women when we get together in a community like we do at the Mamas Talk Money Summit. That's when we can drive change. And you can see it in small things too, right? Organic foods, okay? Walmart 10 years ago, they would never have carried organic food, right? It was like this, like, the wasp is now on my computer. This is very scary. Okay, I'm not going to be stung by a wasp. I'm going to continue my passionate speech here without being afraid of this wasp. Oh my God, it's in front of me now. I lied. I'm totally afraid of this wasp. Okay. 10 years ago, Walmart would never have stocked organic food. That was like not their jig, right? But all of a sudden, so many people came in and started asking for it. And they started losing business to companies that carried organic foods, companies like Whole Foods. And all of a sudden, they had to carry organic foods to catch up. And we see this everywhere. We see this when we move dollars to companies that are more racially diverse and more focused on equality. Then all of a sudden, other companies have to come up with those policies. When we care less about plastic, I think my husband is here to save me from the wasp. He is, but he didn't bring a fly swatter, so I don't know how effective this is going to be. Tatum says, you can do hard things. Did you guys hear that? He caught it out of midair. He's very proud of himself right now. Thank you, honey, for saving me. Okay, so we can make those choices and we have control over that budget, right? Okay, second thing that's powerful. And every single mom I talk to, Cindy says, I'm a fucking cheetah. And I love it, Cindy. Yes, you are a, Sue says, removing the taxes on women's hygiene item now considered a necessity. Yes, these are perfect examples. Okay, the second thing, every single mom I talk to is like, how am I supposed to teach my kids about money? I don't feel like I know about money. How am I supposed to teach my kids good money habits? But I know that I don't want them to be adults who struggle the way I've struggled, who end up saddled with huge student loan debt, who have this negative relationship with money. I don't want them to have that. But how do I teach them if I don't know it? Let me give you a little bit of statistics here. Over 70% of girls want to learn about money from their moms. Over 50% of boys want to learn about money from their moms. Your kids are looking to you to teach them these lessons. And we can tell you all the things you should do with your kids, right? The allowance practices and the money conversations you need to have. We could talk about that. But the reality is that they're watching you, that they're seeing how you make choices, how you talk about money, how you feel worthiness in your career and value yourself, right? They're watching that. Oh my gosh, I'm having a tough moment here, apparently. Okay, I'm gonna drink more water. It's really screwing up my, I feel like I'm on a flow and then I cough. Okay. But they're watching you. And so the best thing you can do to teach your kids good money lessons is to fix your own money stuff. And that comes with mindset, right? That comes back to the money stories you have all the way back in childhood. We had a question here. Breadwinners turned into fluffy croissants over the years. Oh my God. Megan says, Megan, says, will there be any speakers on money mindset? Megan, do I have news for you? All of Monday, the first whole day of the session is themed around thriving mindset. We will have 7 entire sessions all about mindset, from figuring out worthiness, from setting your amount of enough, from overcoming financial anxiety and negative money stories. I will be doing a pajama party live that night, answering all kinds of questions about mindset. We're going to have a panel of women talking about how they changed their money stories, the things that they grew up with and how they overcame them. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about mindset. We are not skipping mindset here. But our kids, right? Changing our language with our kids is one of the most important things. And if we can't mask it from them, right? We have to learn how to change. And so we heard a lot in the media, especially with racial wealth gaps, which are significant, about generational wealth. We hear more and more about generational wealth and the wealth that we pass on to our kids. And there's many forms of generational wealth. We're going to have a whole session by Dr. Nicole Garner-Scott, who is the founder of Amount Financial, and she's a serial entrepreneur. She's amazing. But she's doing a session on how to create a legacy worth leaving. And so we talk about the different aspects of generational wealth, one being money, right? Like actual assets that you pass on to your kids. But the other being money mindset and work ethic and a relationship with money and how we pass that on. And so when we talk about changing generational narratives, and we go back to those statistics about over 70% of girls wanting to learn about money from their moms, about most boys wanting to learn about money from their moms. Moms have the ability to change money decisions forever, right? They can change it for their kids, who can change it for their kids. And if we can just fix ourselves, we can start to write some of these huge scarcity-based negative money stories. Which actually brings me to the last thing we talk about, generational wealth. That's on the mindset side we just talked about, but let's talk about the asset side. One of my favorite stories, and it's not a story, it's more just like statistics, but when I was at Goldman Sachs has a charitable organization called 10,000 Women, and their goal is to invest in 10,000 women-owned businesses in third world countries by some year. I don't know. They're almost there. They've been doing it for, this was my first year out of college, so years ago. And somebody came to do a presentation on why they formed 10,000 Women. And so they'd been investing in different businesses in third world countries for a long time. And what they found was when they invested in a male-owned business, now obviously this is not everybody, we're generalizing here, I understand. But like when they invest in a male-owned business, it made that guy super rich, right? Like he would buy a bigger house and he would, send his kids to school, send his kids to the best school. And that household got very, very wealthy. But there wasn't any broader change. When they invested in women-owned businesses, the whole community changed. That woman hired other women in their community. They sent not only their kids to school, but their neighbors' kids to school. They taught other women the skills that they had learned through the 10,000 Women program, because part of the 10,000 Women program is like mentorship about how to run and grow a business. And they would teach that to other women in their communities. And it would change this like lifelong lasting change, right? And so the majority of women, and this is, obviously we're talking about different countries, different situations, right? But when we talk about in the US, the majority of women view money as what it can do for their families, whereas the majority of men view money as what it can do for themselves. So if one of our goals is to build generational lasting wealth, something we can pass down to our kids and our grandkids, women are far better at thinking that way. That is just how we're built, right? Yes, we 100% are going to talk about thriving mindset. We're going to talk about the fact that you are not the last one on the list, and you better be building into your budget and your financial plans things that bring you absolute complete joy. But I know you're also going to save and invest. I know you're also going to think about how you're going to help your kids with college or maybe their first house, right? And so these are the big lasting changes. And when we talk about money, we find better ways to do this. We change communities. And I am completely love that. And you see it across the board, right? So for every dollar invested in a women-owned business, they generate $2 of revenue. This is significantly higher than every dollar invested in a male-owned business. Women or businesses led by women, as opposed to businesses led by all male teams, all male boards, are significantly more profitable and their stock prices grow higher, right? This idea that we've had this massive funding gap between male-owned and female-owned businesses forever, right, does a disservice to our whole economy and our whole culture. It also looks at, like, when you look at women-owned businesses, they offer better maternity and family leave policies for both men and women, better sick leave. They're more likely to offer paid sick leave benefits, right? Things that we all want as a global society, we see more in women-owned businesses. And so we want to see that change. We want to see that generational wealth, and we want to get together and talk about ways we can do it better, right? Maybe not leave 70% of our assets sitting in cash. How can we invest wisely? Which was a transition I did not plan into my next statistic, which is women are better investors than men. Women are better investors than men, despite all of this nonsense about it being male dominated or whatever. I mean, guys, I managed $1.3 billion for a hedge fund. Before I left my job, my personal book that I manage was $1.3 billion. My husband's a stay-at-home dad. He's amazing, but he does not run the money in our household. It's me. When we were buying this house, our mortgage broker which is like our personal bank. Like these people know us, they know our financial situation. 3 different times I sent a question to the broker, okay? And the broker responded to my husband 3 times. And it took Jeremiah, who's in the comments somewhere here, took Jeremiah responding, I actually don't know the answer to that. Can you please address this to my wife? Ridiculous. And I hear from so many women in our community, oh my God, so many women who are like, we went to meet with a financial advisor and they just kept asking, like directing things at my husband, like every single time. And so despite that nonsense about money, right? Women are better investors than men. So backward looking data shows that women have higher returns of 0.4%. Now that might not seem like a big amount, right? Like less than 0.5%. Women do better. That is a massive difference over time. Like, so between like now and retirement, that is tens and tens of thousands of dollars. Okay. Jeremiah says, yep, he's co-signing that story I just told you. That is a ton of money. And the reason for that is that we're more patient, we're less impulsive, we have more consistent investment strategies instead of trying to time cycles, and all of those things end up in better returns. Shocker. And so when we talk about building generational wealth and we talk about moving more of our money from cash to investments, we do better. Our families do better. And isn't that like what we're all talking about? And so this is why we talk to moms. We have to understand how much power we have to drive change culturally, societally, and within our families long term. And that's why we talk to moms. Okay. And so we have a couple questions here. Tatum says, will the summit address how to pay for debt? Like what's best, consolidate, other, pay down model? Yeah, so we'll have some people talking about specifically debt pay down and talking about budgeting. We'll answer those questions, obviously, in the Q&A. A lot of that is a really personal decision, especially with consolidating. One of the things about consolidating that you want to be aware of is, one, the credit score impact is going to have a negative impact on your credit score, at least for a little while. And also, do you have a plan to pay down the debt? So sometimes what happens is you consolidate, you pour multiple credit cards or things into one big bucket of debt, and now you have room on your credit card again. And if you haven't solved your budgeting or bigger problems, then you just rack up more money on those credit cards and you end up in a worse off position. And so you want to work into all those factors. But yeah, we'll definitely talk about that at Summit, Tatum. Sue says, this happens in male-dominated fields too. I was a female fighter, and civilians. I'm going to assume you were a firefighter, a female firefighter, or maybe you were a fighter. I don't know. And civilians would tend to look through me to interact with the men. Yes, I have also heard this from doctors, from female doctors, that people assume that they're nurses and that they like ask to speak to male doctors, right? And this happens even more significantly, right, to women of color. And that's another thing too. Sue is a firefighter, not like a street fighter. I don't think civilians would be how she would talk about that. Oh my God, totally lost my train of thought. We're going to talk a lot too about, racial diversity and racial gaps in addition to gender gaps throughout the summit. We've worked hard to make sure we have a diverse audience and diverse speaker group to make sure that we can address some of those gaps, because those are significant too. And when you're talking about what we call like intersectional issues, where you have the negative headwinds of being a woman and being a Black woman, or being a LGBTQ woman, then these things all get a little bit harder, and it's important to work on it. Okay. And so does anyone else have any questions? I feel like I got to do my like, yay, why we talk about women rant. I call it a rant for lack of a better term, about why this is so crucially important, and to find your people. I think that one of the things that comes up over and over and over again from women who come into our community is, I thought I was the only one. I thought I was the only one struggling to balance near-term money goals and long-term money goals. I thought I was the only one struggling with what to do with my career. I thought I was the only one who couldn't figure out how to do it all, how to be a full-time working person and a parent and take care of the house and take care of my spouse sometimes, like all these things. We need to find other people who are facing the same situations as us. So Sarah says, late bath time, bedtime in my house. Jumping in late will definitely rewatch. I totally get that. You know how that goes. I will tell you that my 2-year-old decided that this was the week he needed to learn how to get out of his crib and no longer want to sleep in a crib. And so our bedtime routine went from being like 15 minutes to 2 hours in the middle of summit prep, which is not exactly what we're needed. Okay. So Liz says, where can I get your sweater? I love this sweater. It is in the swag shop for Mamas Talk Money. So when you go to mamastalkmoney.com and you get your free ticket to the summit, if you haven't done that yet, go do it. Right on your dashboard, there's a swag link and you can order your own sweatshirt. These things are made of like butter. They're so soft. I don't understand. It's become like a famous thing among our speakers of like, I'll speak at your summit just so I can get a sweatshirt. Let's see. Tatum says, question, what do you feel about the comment, you got to spend money to make money? I find that hard because I have money to spend money, but I totally come from financial lack upbringing. Okay. So you have to spend money to make money I don't like that statement. Like in ways it's true, right? You have to be willing to put money out in the world to get money back. If you hold on too tight to it, you're never going to feel it come in. Where that statement becomes problematic is when you're not spending that money for a reason, right? And so sometimes that means like, hey, I have money to spend, and so I'm going to throw it at my business, but I don't have any plan for what the ROI is going to be. And then I'm surprised when that money doesn't come back and I'm struggling month to month in my business, right? And so I'm more a fan of I'm willing to invest in myself, right? Like you have to be willing to invest in yourself to make money. Is a much better statement to me than you have to spend money to make money. I know it doesn't roll off the tongue quite as easily, but you have to be willing to invest in your own education, to scale, but you have to be willing to invest in yourself 100%. And this is another thing. This is a barrier for a lot of people, a lot of women in particular, of that risk. And especially when we talk about learning new things or starting businesses or passion projects. It's a thing we hear quite often of, hey, I really want to start this side business that might grow into something more, but it might not in the future. And so I'm afraid to spend the $500, the $1,000 to get it started, because what if I end up in a worse place overall? And it's like, okay, but if you never take any risks, you're never going to get where you want to go. And so I think that statement should be more, you have to be willing to invest in yourself to make money. Okay. Sarah says the sweatshirts are made of butter. They're fantastic. Cool. All right, guys. Anybody else have questions before we close for the night? Look at this. We got like really close, like right on the hour. I'm feeling very, very timed well, even though I was just kind of chatting through all my facts for you guys tonight. Like I said, make sure you've hit that share button. You've tagged a friend. Liz says, she's willing to invest in me, which is why I got the Summit All Access Pass. Yeah, guys. And so I'm going to tell you guys one more time. Okay. So free pass to the Mamas Talk Money Summit. Anybody can come attend for free. If you can't afford a pass, if you can't afford financial education, you're not ready yet, go get that free pass. There's so much goodness in the free pass. Like we have tried to make it as accessible as possible for everyone. You get access to all the sessions for 48 hours. So even if you're working or your kids are screaming during a session, you can go back and watch it when you have time. You get worksheets for every session. Every speaker's offering different freebies that you can download. You get the Facebook group, and we're doing $10,000 in giveaways. So we're doing $1,000 debt payoff grant, $1,000 small business startup grant, and a ton of other incredible giveaways, years of budgeting softwares and books and resources and all kinds of really great stuff. Okay. So that's the free pass. Go get the free pass. If you want to upgrade, we have 2 levels. So there's a 30-day pass. That's $29. You get 30 days of access to all the summit content. You also get curated summary notes of every session. They're so cute. Lauren designed them like as bullet journal notes. So they're adorable and they're so helpful for takeaways. A private podcast, so you can listen to all the sessions on the go. And a financial literacy pack for kids. So we designed this kit. It's got activities for kids aged 2 to 14 to really teach them about basic money concepts, counting money, starting businesses, right? All of that stuff. Then we have a lifetime pass, which includes everything in the 30-day pass, except you get lifetime access to all the content. And you get 2 free months of Motivated Mama Society, which is our membership, where I do a live Q&A every month. I do a live 90-minute masterclass training every month. We do a book club. We have accountability posts on a regular basis, like every day in our Facebook group, right? And so you get 2 free months of that. And you get a whole bundle of resources from our speakers and partners that's like over $400 of courses and printables and resources and products, right? And so that pass right now is $69. It's $69 until the summit starts October 12th. Then it's going to go to $89. So if you want to get your all access pass, make sure you do it now before that price goes up and you get all those extra goodies. And so after this session, we'll pick the winner for the workbook. And like I said, you get the PDF version of this workbook. Ooh, look at this is one of my favorite little designs. Oops, I'm facing it the wrong way. Is this Make Yourself Proud one? We have it as a sticker, which is not on my water bottle that's near me. So anyway, that is the summit. We start October 12th with Thriving Mindset Day. We're going to talk all about mindset. Day 2 is financial foundations. That's when Tatum, we're going to talk about debt. We're going to talk about budgeting. We're going to talk about talking to your partner about money. Nikisha Wynn is going to do a session on managing money as a single mom. She's amazing. I love her to pieces. We're going to set our foundations. We're going to get our mind straight. We're going to set our foundations. Then we're going to talk about security. So that's when we're going to talk about investing for retirement, planning for the future, creating an estate plan, all that kind of stuff is going to be on Wednesday. So mindset, foundation, we're getting secure. Legacy Thursday is all about legacy, teaching your kids about money, affording college, giving them options, helping them career plan for themselves, and also, using your money as a vote and to make the world a better place. We're going to talk about that on Legacy Day. And the last day of the summit is so fun. We're doing Passion and Purpose, which is about creating a career that works for you, right? We'll have some sessions on entrepreneurship, some sessions on career development, and that's the week. We'll do giveaways every single day. I cannot wait. Okay. So I'm just looking at the comments here. Liz says, oh my God, that workbook is effing insanely amazing. I love designing things like that. Liz, I'm so glad that you like how it looks. Danielle says, thank you, Tatum, for turning me on to Smart Money Mamas. We're excited you're here, Danielle. All right, guys, I'm going to turn off for tonight. I hope I see you all on October 12th, and I will be live again a couple times different next week. I know we're doing at least one live on teaching kids about money. We'll be doing an FAQ live, and so hopefully we see you back live next week. Talk to you soon.